I thought today would be ordinary. Just another Monday morning filled with coffee runs, endless emails, and the usual corporate monotony. But life has a cruel way of blindsiding you when you least expect it. When your boyfriend calls you during work hours to end things, in the cold, echoing stairwell of your office building, ordinary becomes a distant memory. My phone buzzed at exactly 2:47 p.m. Derek's name lit up the screen, and I smiled despite the mountain of paperwork waiting on my desk. We'd been together for 8 months. Not perfect, but I thought we were building something real. I ducked into the emergency staircase for privacy, expecting maybe a sweet message or plans for dinner. "Hey, what's up?" I answered, keeping my voice low. There was a pause. Then his voice came through, flat and detached. "Liam, we need to talk." Those 4 words. Everyone knows what they mean. My stomach dropped instantly. Okay, about what? I tried to sound casual, but my hand was already trembling against the cold metal railing. I can't do this anymore. This relationship. It's not working for me. The words hit like a physical blow. I actually stumbled back against the concrete wall, my briefcase slipping from my shoulder. "What? Derek, where is this coming from? Did something happen?" "Nothing happened. I've just been thinking a lot lately. And honestly, Liam, you're boring. Like, really boring. When I'm with you, I don't feel anything. No excitement, no passion. It's like dating a piece of furniture. I need more than what you can give me." Boring. That single word echoed in my skull, louder than my own heartbeat. I'd heard criticisms before. Too quiet, too serious, too focused on work. But boring cut deeper than I expected. It wasn't just an insult. It was a verdict on my entire existence. I've tried, Derek. I've really tried to be what you wanted. That's the problem. You shouldn't have to try. It should be natural. But with you, everything feels forced. He sighed. "I'm sorry, but I'm done. Take care of yourself." The line went dead. I stood there in that stairwell, phone pressed against my ear, even though he was gone, staring at the gray concrete walls that suddenly felt like they were closing in. My vision blurred. I blinked rapidly, refusing to let the tears fall. But they came anyway, hot, angry, humiliating tears that I couldn't control. 8 months. 8 months of late-night conversations, of rearranging my schedule to match his, of pushing down my own preferences to make him happy. And in the end, I was just boring. Not worth the effort. Disposable. I pressed the sleeve of my dress shirt against my eyes, trying to physically stop the tears. Crying at work wasn't an option, especially not when you work for Adrian Hale. Even thinking his name sent a chill down my spine. Adrian was the CEO of Hale Associates, the youngest person to ever hold that position at 32. Everything about him screamed intimidation. From his perfectly tailored suits to the way his gray eyes could freeze you mid-sentence. He was brilliant, ruthless, and completely emotionless. People in the office called him the Ice King behind his back. I called him Sir and tried to stay invisible. As his executive assistant for the past year, I'd learned to read his moods, anticipate his needs, and most importantly, never show weakness. Adrian Hale didn't tolerate incompetence, and he definitely didn't tolerate personal drama bleeding into professional spaces. I forced myself to breathe, in through the nose, out through the mouth. I had files to deliver to his office in 10 minutes. I couldn't walk in there looking like I'd just had my heart ripped out. I splashed some water on my face from the water fountain on the 5th floor, straightened my tie, and practiced a neutral expression in the reflection of a darkened window. "You can do this, Liam. Just act normal. Drop off the reports and leave. He won't even look up." I knocked on his office door at exactly 3:15 p.m. "Right on schedule. Enter." His voice carried through the heavy oak door, low, controlled, completely devoid of warmth. I pushed the door open and stepped into his massive corner office. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city skyline. His desk was an imposing fortress of dark mahogany. Adrian sat behind it, his attention fixed on a document, his expression unreadable as always. "Sir, the quarterly reports you requested. Everything's been reviewed and cross-checked." I kept my voice steady, professional. He didn't look up, just extended his hand toward me. Palm up, waiting. I crossed the room and placed the folder in his hand. Then I immediately turned to leave. I almost made it to the door. "Why are your eyes red?" I froze mid-step, my heart lurching into my throat. "I'm sorry." I turned back slowly, forcing a confused smile onto my face. Now he was looking at me. Really looking at me. Those piercing gray eyes that usually skimmed over people were locked onto mine with an intensity that made my skin prickle. For the first time in 12 months of working together, Adrian Hale was actually seeing me. "Your eyes. They're red. And slightly swollen." He set down his pen. "Are you unwell?" His tone was clinical, but there was something else underneath it. Curiosity. Concern? With Adrian, it was impossible to tell. "Oh, that. Just allergies, sir. Seasonal thing. Nothing to worry about." The lie came easily. He didn't respond immediately, just kept staring at me with those calculating eyes, like he was solving a complex equation in his head. The silence stretched on for what felt like hours, but was probably only seconds. I could feel sweat forming on the back of my neck. Then, finally, he looked back down at his paperwork. "All right, you're dismissed." I practically ran out of his office, closing the door behind me with more force than necessary. My hands were shaking again. Did he know? Could he tell? No. Impossible. Adrian Hale didn't care about his employees' personal lives. He barely acknowledged we were human beings with feelings. But as I sat back down at my desk, trying to focus on work and failing miserably, I couldn't shake the image of his face when he'd looked at me. There was something in his expression I'd never seen before. Something almost protective. I shook my head, dismissing the thought. I was just emotional and reading into things. Adrian Hale didn't care. He never cared. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Derek's words playing on an endless loop. "Boring. You're boring. You're boring." I grabbed my phone and scrolled through our old photos together, looking for clues I'd missed. Had I really been that awful? That uninteresting? By the time my alarm went off at 6 a.m., I'd made a decision. I needed to get out of my apartment, clear my head, and face the day. Coffee first. Then I'd deal with everything else. The morning air was crisp as I walked into my usual coffee shop at 7 a.m., a full hour before I needed to be at the office. The small cafe was tucked between two larger buildings, the kind of place tourists never noticed, but locals treasured. It smelled like fresh espresso and cinnamon, and the barista knew my order by heart. Black coffee, no sugar, extra shot. I claimed my corner table by the window, the one with the slightly wobbly leg that nobody else wanted. Perfect. I could sit here, drink my coffee, and try to piece together my shattered self-esteem before facing another day of pretending everything was fine. My phone sat face down on the table. I couldn't bring myself to check if Derek had texted. Part of me hoped he had. Maybe to apologize or take it back. The other part knew that would somehow be worse. Going back to someone who thought I was boring would just prove him right. Was I really that dull? I worked hard, paid my bills on time, kept my apartment clean. I liked reading before bed and watching documentaries on weekends. Maybe that wasn't exciting, but it was my life. It was me. "Your usual, Liam?" the barista called out. I nodded, and she slid my cup across the counter. I grabbed it and returned to my seat, wrapping both hands around the warm ceramic. The coffee was perfect, dark, bitter, exactly what I needed. I stared out the window at people rushing past on their way to work. Everyone moving with purpose while I felt stuck in place. "I didn't expect to see you here." The voice came from directly beside me. Deep, measured, unmistakable. My head snapped up so fast I nearly spilled my coffee. Adrian Hale stood 3 feet away, holding his own cup, dressed in an impeccably fitted charcoal suit, his tie a deep burgundy perfectly knotted. He looked like he'd stepped out of a magazine spread about successful executives. "Mr. Hale." I scrambled to stand up, nearly knocking my chair over. "I didn't. I mean, what are you?" "Relax, Liam. We're not in the office." He gestured to my chair. "Sit." I sat. He didn't move. "You come here often?" he asked, and there was something almost conversational about his tone. Not warm exactly, but less sharp than usual. "Every morning before work. It's quiet. Helps me think." Why was I telling him this? I never shared personal information with Adrian. He nodded slowly, his eyes scanning the cafe like he was cataloging every detail. "I usually go to the place on 5th Avenue. Corporate chain. Fast service. But their coffee tastes like burnt cardboard." He paused. "This place is better." Was Adrian Hale making small talk with me? I must have been dreaming. Or having a breakdown. Before I could respond, he pulled out the chair across from me and sat down. Just sat down at my table like it was normal. My brain short-circuited. "You looked upset yesterday," he said, his gray eyes fixed on mine. No preamble, no easing into the topic. Pure Adrian efficiency. In my office, the allergy excuse was unconvincing. My throat went dry. "I'm fine, really. Just a rough day." "You're lying again." He took a sip of his coffee, completely calm. "You're terrible at it, by the way. Your left eye twitches when you're not telling the truth. I've noticed it during meetings, when you try to cover for other people's mistakes." He noticed? Adrian Hale noticed my eye twitching? "I appreciate the concern, Mr. Hale, but I promise." "Adrian." He set his cup down and leaned back in his chair. "When we're not in the office, call me Adrian. The formality is exhausting outside of work hours." The directness of the request, combined with the unexpected intimacy of using his first name, cracked something inside me. Maybe it was the lack of sleep. Maybe it was the fact that he was the first person to actually ask if I was okay. Maybe I was just tired of pretending. "My boyfriend broke up with me," I said quietly, staring down at my coffee. "Well, ex-boyfriend now, I guess." Silence. I risked a glance up. Adrian's expression had shifted. His jaw was tight, and something dark flickered in his eyes, something that looked almost like anger. But that couldn't be right. Why would he be angry? "I see," he said finally. "His decision, or yours?" I swallowed hard. He said I was boring. That being with me felt like dating furniture. No excitement, no passion. The word tasted like poison in my mouth. Just boring. Adrian's fingers tightened around his coffee cup. For a moment, I thought he might break it. Then he set it down very carefully and looked at me with an intensity that made my breath catch. "He's an idiot." I blinked. "Sorry, your ex-boyfriend." "He's an idiot." Adrian spoke slowly, deliberately, like he was explaining something obvious. "If he found you boring, the problem isn't with you. It's with him. He lacks the intelligence to appreciate what he had." My heart did something weird in my chest. A flutter I couldn't quite explain. "You don't know me well enough to say that." I protested weakly. "Don't I?" He leaned forward slightly, elbows on the table. "I've worked with you for a year, Liam. I know you arrive 30 minutes early every day. I know you triple-check every document before submitting it. I know you stay late to help other assistants who are struggling, even though it's not your job. I know you take your coffee black because you think adding sugar is wasteful. I know you bite your lower lip when you're concentrating, and you tap your pan exactly 3 times before writing anything important." I stared at him, speechless. He'd noticed all of that? "You're methodical, intelligent, and reliable," Adrian continued. "Those aren't boring traits. They're rare ones. If someone can't see that, they don't deserve your time." He paused, then added quietly, "And for what it's worth, I've never found you boring." The last sentence hung in the air between us. My face felt hot. My pulse was racing. This was Adrian Hale, my cold, distant alpha boss who barely acknowledged my existence most days, telling me I wasn't boring. Telling me he'd been paying attention. "Thank you," I managed to whisper. "That means more than you know." He nodded once, then checked his watch. We should head to the office. I'll walk with you. As we left the coffee shop together, I couldn't help but notice how different everything felt. The morning seemed brighter. The weight on my chest had lifted slightly. And Adrian, walking beside me, his presence solid and steady, made me feel something I hadn't expected. Safe. Walking into the office with Adrian felt surreal. We didn't talk much during the 10-minute walk. He took a phone call about a client meeting, his voice shifting back into that crisp, professional tone I was used to. But every so often, I'd catch him glancing at me from the corner of his eye, like he was checking to make sure I was still there. When we entered the lobby, heads turned. Adrian Hale walking in with his Omega assistant at 7:30 in the morning, both holding coffee cups from the same shop. That was gossip gold. "I'll see you upstairs," Adrian said, his voice back to its usual detached efficiency. Then he headed toward the executive elevator, leaving me to take the regular one with everyone else. The moment the elevator doors closed behind him, my coworker Rachel materialized beside me. "Okay, Spill. Why were you walking in with the Ice King? And why did he look at you like that?" She grinned wickedly. "Like what? He didn't look at me any particular way." I pressed the button for the 15th floor repeatedly, hoping the elevator would arrive faster. "Liam, I've worked here for 3 years. Adrian Hale doesn't look at anyone. He looks through people. But just now, he was definitely looking at you." She nudged my arm. "Something's going on." "Nothing's going on. We just happened to be at the same coffee shop." The elevator finally arrived, and I practically jumped inside. But Rachel's words stuck with me as I settled at my desk outside Adrian's office. Had he been looking at me differently? No, that was ridiculous. He'd just been kind because he'd overheard something personal. That was basic human decency. Nothing more. I threw myself into work, determined to prove I wasn't the disaster Derek had made me feel like. Emails got answered in record time. Reports were filed with military precision. By lunch, I'd cleared half of my pending tasks. "Liam." Adrian's voice came through the intercom on my desk. I pressed the button. "Yes, sir." "Come in here, please." I grabbed my tablet and entered his office. He was standing by the window, hands in his pockets, looking out at the city. He didn't turn when I entered. Closed the door. My stomach flipped. In a year of working here, he'd never asked me to close the door unless we were discussing confidential client information. I did as instructed and stood near his desk, waiting. "Have you eaten?" he asked, still facing the window. "Not yet. I was planning to grab something from the cafeteria." "Cancel that plan. We're going out." I almost dropped my tablet. "Excuse me." "Now." He turned, and there was something different about his expression. Less guarded. "There's a bistro 2 blocks from here. Excellent pasta. Quiet atmosphere. I'm taking you to lunch." "Mr. Hale, I don't think." "Adrian," he corrected, moving toward his desk to grab his suit jacket. "And I'm not asking, Liam. I'm telling you, we're going to lunch." 20 minutes later, I found myself sitting across from Adrian Hale in an upscale Italian restaurant, menu in hand, absolutely convinced I'd entered an alternate dimension. The bistro was intimate, soft lighting, fresh flowers on every table, and a distinct lack of other diners since we'd arrived during the early lunch rush. Adrian had apparently called ahead for a reservation, which meant this wasn't spontaneous. He'd planned this. "Order whatever you want," he said, not even looking at his own menu. "The carbonara here is exceptional, but so is everything else." I picked something at random, too nervous to actually read the descriptions. When the waiter left, silence settled between us. Not uncomfortable, exactly, but charged with something unspoken. "Why are we here?" I asked finally. Adrian set down his water glass and met my eyes. "Because yesterday, you found out someone you cared about thought you weren't worth keeping. And because I wanted to make sure you understood that he was wrong." My breath caught. "You don't have to do this. I'm fine, really. Stop saying you're fine when you're not." His voice was gentle but firm. "I heard the entire conversation yesterday, Liam. I was in the stairwell. I'd gone down there to take a private call, and then I heard your voice." He paused. I should have left. But I didn't. I listened. The room spun slightly. He'd heard everything. Every pathetic word. Every moment of me being rejected. "I'm sorry you had to hear that." I mumbled, mortified. "I'm not." He leaned forward, elbows on the table. "Because it gave me information I needed. The way he spoke to you was unacceptable. The things he said were objectively false. And watching you try to hold yourself together afterward, then walk into my office and pretend everything was normal, that took strength." I didn't feel strong. Strength isn't the absence of pain, Liam. It's continuing to function despite it. His eyes never left mine. "You impress me." Those 3 words did something to my chest. Made it tight and warm at the same time. Our food arrived, and we ate in relative quiet. But it wasn't awkward anymore. Adrian asked about my weekend plans, about the book I'd been reading that I'd mentioned once in passing 3 months ago. He'd remembered. He'd remembered such a small, insignificant detail. When we returned to the office, something had fundamentally shifted. Adrian didn't retreat back into his usual coldness. Throughout the afternoon, he found reasons to talk to me. Asking my opinion on a proposal, requesting I sit in on a conference call, even just checking if I needed anything. At 4 p.m., Rachel from reception stopped by my desk, eyes wide. "Okay, you have to tell me what's happening." Adrian Hale just smiled. Like an actual smile. "I've been here 5 years, and I didn't know his face could do that." She leaned in conspiratorially. "He smiled when he was talking to you on the phone. What did you say to him?" "I just confirmed his dinner reservation," I said weakly. "Well, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Maybe the Ice King is finally melting." But it wasn't about him melting. As I packed up my desk that evening, I realized what had actually changed. Adrian had always been watching, always been aware. He'd just never shown it before. And now that he was showing it, everything felt different. Dangerous, maybe. Exciting, definitely. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Don't work too late tonight. You need rest." I stared at the message, a smile tugging at my lips despite everything. Maybe Derek had been wrong. Maybe I wasn't boring at all. Maybe I'd just been waiting for someone who actually paid attention. The next 3 days blurred together in a haze of stolen glances and charged silences. Adrian's behavior had shifted from professionally distant to something I couldn't quite name. Protective, yes, but also intensely focused. He found reasons to be near me constantly. Morning briefings that used to take 5 minutes now stretched to 20. He'd appear at my desk with questions about reports he'd never asked about before. During team meetings, he positioned himself so he could see me, his gray eyes tracking my every movement. In the scent, his alpha pheromones, which had always been strictly controlled, now seemed to linger in the air around me. Cedarwood and something darker, something warm. It made my omega instincts hummed with a confusing mixture of comfort and want. It was Thursday evening when everything came to a head. I was packing up my desk, ready to head to the parking garage, when Adrian emerged from his office, already wearing his coat. "I'm driving you home," he announced. Not asked. I hesitated, my keys already in my hand. "Adrian, my car is here. I can drive myself." His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Leave it. You can get it tomorrow morning." When I opened my mouth to protest, he cut me off with a single word. "Please." Something in his tone, not commanding this time, but almost vulnerable, made me nod. I grabbed my briefcase and followed him to the elevator. The ride down was silent except for the mechanical hum of the cables. Adrian stood close enough that I could smell his cologne. Cedar and something darker, more complex. His alpha scent wrapped around me, and I felt my own omega pheromones respond, a warmth spreading through my chest. His car was a sleek black Mercedes, all leather interior and tinted windows. I slid into the passenger seat, hyper-aware of how the space seemed to shrink with both of us inside. Adrian started the engine, but didn't immediately pull out of the parking spot. Instead, he sat there, hands on the steering wheel, staring straight ahead. "Are you all right?" I asked tentatively. "Has he contacted you again?" The question came out tight. Control. I knew immediately who he meant. Derek? No. I blocked his number after the breakup. Something in Adrian's shoulders relaxed fractionally. He shifted the car into drive, and we pulled out into evening traffic. The city lights painted streaks across the windshield as we drove. Neither of us spoke, but the silence wasn't empty. It was full of things unsaid, tension coiling tighter with each passing block. We were halfway to my apartment when Adrian suddenly turned down a side street, away from the main road. The street lights grew sparser, the buildings more industrial. He pulled into an empty lot behind what looked like a closed warehouse and cut the engine. My heart started hammering. Why are we stopping? Adrian unbuckled his seat belt and turned to face me fully. In the dim light, his features were all sharp angles and shadows. Because I can't drive another mile pretending I'm not losing my mind. What are you talking about? You. The word came out rough. I'm talking about you, Liam. Do you have any idea what it's been like? Watching you for months. Keeping my distance because it was inappropriate. Because you were my employee and I was your boss. Telling myself I could control it. That it was just attraction and it would fade. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. Then I heard him on that phone call. Heard him tell you that you weren't enough. And something inside me just broke. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Let me finish. He reached out, and his hand curved around my jaw, thumb brushing my cheekbone. The touch was gentle but possessive, and it sent electricity racing down my spine. I've watched you handle clients who yell, work through nights when everyone else went home. Remember details about people that even they forget about themselves. You bring me coffee exactly how I like it without being asked. You smile at the janitor every morning. You reorganize the supply closet when you're stressed because you like things orderly. His gray eyes burned into mine. You noticed all that? My voice came out barely above a whisper. I notice everything about you. His thumb traced my jawline. The way you bite your thumbnail when you're thinking, how you always take the stairs instead of the elevator on Fridays, that you wear a silver watch that was your grandfather's, that you're brilliant and kind and so far from boring, it's almost laughable that anyone could think otherwise. My chest felt tight, like there wasn't enough air in the car. Why are you telling me this? Because I can't keep pretending I don't want you. His other hand came up, framing my face. Because life's too short to watch the person you want think they're not worth wanting. I didn't let him finish. I leaned forward and kissed him. For half a second, Adrian froze, surprised. Then he made a low sound in his throat and kissed me back with an intensity that stole whatever breath I had left. His hands slid from my face to my hair, fingers tangling in it, pulling me closer despite the console between us. I grabbed his shirt, wrinkling the expensive fabric, not caring about anything except the feeling of his mouth on mine. His alpha pheromones flooded the car, and my omega instincts responded in kind, a wave of warmth and trust, and want that I'd never experienced before. The kiss was nothing like the few I'd shared with Derek. Those had been pleasant, comfortable. This was desperate and consuming, like Adrian was trying to prove something, claim something. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he pressed his forehead against mine. "You're mine now," he said, and it wasn't a question. "Tell me you understand that." I understand. And I did. Whatever this was between us, it wasn't casual. It wasn't something either of us could walk away from. He kissed me again, softer this time, almost reverent. Then he pulled back and started the car without another word. We drove to my apartment in silence, but his hand found mine across the console and held it the entire way. When he pulled up outside my building, I didn't want to leave. Didn't want to break whatever spell had been cast in that dark parking lot. "Tomorrow," Adrian said, his thumb rubbing circles on the back of my hand. "We figure out what this means. What we are. But tonight, just know that you're not alone anymore. Whatever happens, I'm here. I nodded, not trusting my voice. Then I got out of the car and walked to my door on shaky legs. When I turned back, Adrian was still there, watching to make sure I got inside safely. He didn't drive away until I'd locked the door behind me. I leaned against it, my lips still tingling, my mind racing. Adrian Hale had kissed me, had told me he'd been watching me for months, had declared me his with a certainty that should have been terrifying, but instead felt like coming home. I touched my mouth, remembering the feeling of his hands in my hair, the desperation in his kiss. Everything had changed. There was no going back to the way things were. And I didn't want to. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. His number, which I hadn't saved yet. Sleep well. Tomorrow, everything changes. I saved his number immediately, a smile spreading across my face despite the chaos of emotions swirling in my chest. Tomorrow, everything would change. But maybe, for once, change would be good. I fell asleep that night with his words echoing in my mind. You're mine now. And the terrifying, exhilarating truth was that I wanted to be. I woke up Friday morning to my phone ringing insistently. Half asleep, I grabbed it from my nightstand and squinted at the screen. Unknown number. My finger hovered over the decline button, but something made me answer. Hello. Liam, don't hang up. Derek's voice hit me like cold water. I know you blocked me, but we need to talk. I'm outside your building. Please, just give me 5 minutes. My stomach dropped. How do you know where I live? Does it matter? I'm here. I came to apologize properly. To fix this. There was a desperate edge to his voice I'd never heard before. Please, Liam. 5 minutes. I should have hung up. Should have called security. Instead, I found myself getting dressed in a daze, jeans and a t-shirt, since it was Friday and the office had a casual dress code. My hands shook as I brushed my teeth, ran fingers through my hair. What was I doing? Why was I even considering facing him? Because you need closure, a voice in my head whispered. You need to end this properly, so you can move forward. With Adrian, the thought steadied me. Whatever Derek wanted, it didn't matter anymore. I wasn't the same person who'd cried in that stairwell 4 days ago. I took the elevator down, my heart pounding, but my resolve firm. Derek was waiting on the sidewalk, and he looked terrible. His hair was messy, his clothes wrinkled, like he'd slept in them. He was holding a bouquet of supermarket flowers, sad, drooping carnations that looked like they'd been sitting in a bucket too long. Liam, his face lit up when he saw me. Thank God. I was worried you wouldn't come down. You have 5 minutes. I crossed my arms, staying several feet away. And I'm going back inside. I made a mistake. The words tumbled out fast, rehearsed. The biggest mistake of my life. Breaking up with you was stupid. I don't know what I was thinking. You're not boring. You're stable. Reliable. That's good, right? That's what relationships need. Each word made me angrier. Is that supposed to make me feel better? You're basically saying I'm like a solid investment portfolio. No, that's not. I mean, I took you for granted. I didn't appreciate what I had. But I do now. We can start over. Go back to how things were. How things were. I repeated slowly. You mean when you felt nothing being with me? When you compared dating me to dating furniture? He winced. I was angry. I said things I didn't mean. Come on, Liam. We were together 8 months. That has to count for something. It does count. It taught me what I don't want. I was surprised by how steady my voice was. I don't want someone who only wants me back because they think no one else will. I don't want to be someone's safe option. That's not what you are. His voice rose, frustrated. I love you. No, you don't. The certainty in my own words surprised me. If you loved me, you wouldn't have made me feel like I wasn't enough. I turned to walk away, done with the conversation. But Derek grabbed my wrist. Not hard, but insistent. Wait. Just wait. His eyes searched my face. Is there someone else? Is that what this is about? Before I could answer, a car door slammed. I turned and felt my heart skip. Adrian was striding across the sidewalk toward us, and he looked furious. He was dressed in a full charcoal suit despite it being Friday. Every inch the powerful alpha CEO. His gray eyes were locked on Derek's hand around my wrist, like it was a personal offense. Let him go. Adrian's voice was deadly quiet, the kind of calm that preceded storms. Derek dropped my wrist immediately, confusion crossing his face. Who are you? Adrian didn't answer. Instead, he moved directly into my space, one hand sliding around my waist and pulling me against his side. The gesture was unmistakably possessive, claiming, "Are you okay?" he asked me, his voice softening. "I'm fine." I managed, very aware of Derek watching us with growing understanding. "Wait," Derek's voice rose. "Wait a second. This is the guy? Your boss? You're dating your boss." He looked between us, and something ugly twisted his features. "Wow, Liam. I didn't think you had it in you. How long has this been going on? Were you cheating on me?" Adrian's hand tightened on my waist, and when he spoke, his voice could have cut glass. "He didn't cheat on anyone. But he has moved on, which is something you're going to have to accept. Liam is with me now, and this conversation is over." "I don't believe this." Derek laughed, but it sounded forced. "This is insane. Liam, come on. You can't seriously be with him. He's your boss. This is a workplace thing. It won't last." "That's enough." I found my voice, stepping forward slightly. "Adrian is right. I've moved on. What we had is over. And it was over the moment you decided I wasn't worth your time. Now leave. Please." Derek stared at me, at Adrian's arm still around my waist, at the way I was standing closer to Adrian than I ever stood to him. Something crumbled in his expression, realization that he'd truly lost. "You're making a mistake," he said weakly. "The only mistake I made was not recognizing my worth sooner." I met his eye steadily. "Goodbye, Derek." He looked like he wanted to argue more, but Adrian shifted, his body language making it clear he was done being patient. Derek finally dropped the flowers on the ground and walked away, his shoulders slumped. We watched until he disappeared around the corner. Only then did Adrian turn me to face him, both hands coming up to cup my face, checking me over like he was searching for injuries. "Did he hurt you?" His voice was rough. "Your wrist." "I'm fine. He didn't hurt me." I realized I was shaking slightly, adrenaline crashing through my system. "What are you doing here?" "How did you know?" "I came to pick you up for work." Saw his car parked out front. His jaw was tight. I was about to come down anyway, but then I saw him grab you and I. He trailed off, taking a breath. I don't like seeing other people touch what's mine. The possessiveness in his tone should have bothered me. Instead, it sent warmth spreading through my chest. "What's yours?" I asked softly. Adrian's eyes darkened. "Yes, mine. Is that going to be a problem?" I thought about it for exactly half a second. No problem at all." He kissed me right there on the sidewalk, in broad daylight, where anyone could see. Deep and claiming, and absolutely perfect. When we broke apart, I was breathless and smiling. "Come on," Adrian said, taking my hand and leading me toward his car. "Let's go to work. We have some things to figure out." The weekend passed in a strange bubble of unreality. Adrian took me to dinner Friday night. Not somewhere flashy, but a quiet restaurant where we could actually talk. We discussed logistics, how to handle things at work, whether to tell HR, what boundaries we needed to set. It was practical and mature, and underneath it all was the constant electric current of attraction that made it hard to focus on anything else. Saturday, he showed up at my apartment with coffee and bagels, and we spent the day doing nothing important. Watching movies, talking about everything and nothing, existing in each other's space without the pressure of the office around us. He kissed me slowly on my couch, his hands gentle in my hair, and it felt like the most natural thing in the world. But there was something unspoken between us. 3 words that hung heavy and unacknowledged. I felt them every time he looked at me, every time his hand found mine automatically, every time he smiled that small, private smile that was only for me. By Monday, I was going crazy with it. We arrived at work separately. His idea? To avoid too much gossip too fast. But the moment I sat down at my desk, the intercom buzzed. Liam? My office, please. I grabbed my tablet and headed in, closing the door behind me. Adrian was standing by his window, hands in his pockets, looking out at the city. He didn't turn when I entered. We need to talk about something, he said. My stomach dropped. Those words never led anywhere good. Okay. This week has been unexpected, intense, moving fast. Oh God. He was getting cold feet. He was going to say this was a mistake, that we should go back to being professional, that he'd gotten caught up in the moment. But I'm in love with you. The words stopped my spiral completely. I stared at his back, certain I'd misheard. What? Adrian turned to face me, and his expression was more open than I'd ever seen it. Vulnerable. I'm in love with you. I have been for a while now, though I only admitted it to myself recently. He crossed the space between us slowly. I know this is fast. I know we've only been officially together for a few days. But I also know what I feel. I've never been uncertain about anything important in my life, and I'm not uncertain about this. My throat had gone completely dry. When I heard that phone call last week, when I heard someone tell you that you weren't enough, it physically hurt. Because you're everything. He stopped in front of me, close enough that I could feel the warmth of his body. You're the first person I think about in the morning, and the last person I think about before I sleep. You make me laugh, which people will tell you almost never happens. You challenge me. You make me want to be better. Softer. More human. His hand came up to cup my cheek. I love you, Liam. Completely. And I need you to know that before we go any further. I couldn't breathe. My eyes were burning with tears I was fighting to hold back. Why are you telling me this now? Because I don't want there to be any confusion about what this is. About what you mean to me. His thumb brushed away a tear that had escaped despite my best efforts. You deserve to know exactly how I feel. You deserve someone who's certain about you. The last piece of my heart that had been holding back crumbled completely. I love you too, I whispered. I think I have since you sat down in that coffee shop and told me I wasn't boring. Maybe even before that, without realizing it. All those months of being terrified of you. Maybe part of it was because I felt something I wasn't supposed to feel. Adrian's entire face transformed. He smiled. Really smiled. Not the small controlled expressions I was used to, but a genuine, blazing smile that made him look younger and impossibly handsome. Say it again, he demanded softly. I love you. It was easier the second time. I love you, Adrian Hale. He kissed me then, and it was different from every other kiss we'd shared. This one was a promise. A commitment. This was the kiss that marked the beginning of something real and permanent and terrifying in the best possible way. When we finally broke apart, I was laughing breathlessly. We're really doing this? The CEO and his assistant? That's such a cliché. I don't care about clichés. Adrian's arms were around me, holding me close. I care about you. Everything else is just details we'll figure out. What about work? People are going to talk. They already have been. He pressed a kiss to my forehead. Let them talk. I'll speak with HR this week. Make sure everything is above board. If necessary, we can restructure so you're not directly reporting to me. Though I'd prefer to keep you close. He pulled back to look at me seriously. But I won't let this cost you your career, Liam. If anyone suggests you got your position because of our relationship, I'll shut that down immediately. Your work speaks for itself. I know. And I did. Adrian would never let anyone diminish my accomplishments. I'm not worried about that. Then what are you worried about? I thought about it honestly. Nothing. For the first time in a long time, I'm not worried about anything. His arms tightened around me. Good. That's how it should be. We stood there in his office, wrapped around each other, and I thought about the journey that had brought us here. A week ago, I'd been crying in a stairwell, convinced I was boring and unlovable. Now I was in the arms of a man who looked at me like I hung the stars, who declared his love in the middle of a Monday morning with absolute certainty. Thank you, I said quietly. For what? For seeing me. Really seeing me. Not the version of myself I show everyone else, but the real me. Adrian's hand came up to tangle in my hair, tilting my head back so he could look into my eyes. That's the only version I've ever seen. The real you is the only version that matters. He kissed me again, slow and deep, and I let myself fall completely into it. Into him. Into us. Outside the office, work continued. Phones rang, keyboards clicked, meetings happened. But inside this room, in this moment, nothing existed except the two of us and the love we'd finally admitted out loud. The Ice King had melted, and I had melted right along with him. We were in love. Completely, utterly, undeniably. And for the first time in my life, I knew exactly where I belonged. The next few weeks were a careful balancing act. Adrian and I agreed to keep our relationship private at work, at least for now. Not because we were ashamed, but because we wanted to handle things properly. HR needed to be involved. Reporting structures needed to be adjusted. There were protocols to follow, and Adrian was determined to do this right. I don't want anyone to be able to say you got special treatment because of me, he explained one evening, as we lay tangled together on his couch. His fingers traced lazy patterns on my back, and his alpha scent was warm and content. You've worked too hard for that, and I don't want anyone to say you're playing favorites, I replied, pressing a kiss to his jaw. So we'll be careful. Professional at work, private at home. I hate it, he admitted, his voice low. I hate not being able to touch you when I want to. I hate watching you walk past my office and not being able to call you and just to look at you. I laughed softly. You're very dramatic for someone who's supposed to be the Ice King. The Ice King never met you. He pulled me closer, burying his face in my hair. The Ice King didn't know what he was missing. The HR meeting was awkward but professional. Adrian had arranged for me to be transferred to a different department, still reporting to the executive level, but no longer directly to him. My new boss was a woman named Elena, sharp-eyed beta with a reputation for fairness and no tolerance for office gossip. I've reviewed your file, Elena said during our first meeting. Your performance reviews are excellent. Your work ethic is remarkable. And frankly, I don't care who you're dating as long as it doesn't affect your performance. It won't, I assured her. Good. She nodded once. Then welcome to the team. The gossip started almost immediately. Not everyone was subtle about it. I caught whispers in the break room, glances in the hallway, the kind of speculative murmurs that followed any whiff of scandal. Some of it was harmless curiosity. Some of it was less kind. I heard he got transferred because the CEO was tired of him. No, I heard they've been together for months. That's why he got promoted so fast. He's an Omega. You know how alphas are. Rachel, my loyal coworker, became my unofficial defender. She shot death glares at anyone who whispered too loudly and made a point of eating lunch with me every day, as if to prove I wasn't isolated. Ignore them, she said, stabbing her salad with unnecessary force. They're just jealous. You landed the most eligible alpha in the city, and they're stuck with their boring Tinder dates. I didn't land anyone, I protested. It just happened. Uh-huh. She raised an eyebrow. And the fact that he's been staring at you like a lovesick puppy during every all-hands meeting for the past month is just coincidence. I felt my face heat. He does not stare. Liam, he literally forgot his own slide deck yesterday because you walked into the room. The CFO had to remind him what he was talking about. I buried my face in my hands. Oh God is right. Rachel grinned. But also, it's adorable. The Ice King, undone by his Omega assistant. Someone should write a novel. Adrian and I had been together for 6 weeks when he suggested we go out. Publicly. Not hiding. There's a charity gala next Friday, he said, his voice carefully casual in a way that told me he'd been thinking about this for a while. I'm required to attend. I'd like you to come with me. I looked up from the book I'd been pretending to read. As your date. As my boyfriend. He held my gaze steadily. If you're ready for that. My heart raced. The gala would be full of people, clients, competitors, journalists. Everyone who is anyone in the city would be there. Showing up on Adrian's arm would be a statement. There would be no going back. Are you sure? I asked. Once we do this, everyone will know. Everyone already suspects. He moved closer, sitting on the edge of the couch. And I'm tired of pretending I'm not completely gone for you. I want to take you to fancy events and hold your hand in public. I want people to see us together and know that you're mine. The possessiveness in his voice still sent a shiver down my spine, but in the best way. Okay, I said. Let's do it. The night of the gala, I stood in front of my mirror in a dark blue suit that Adrian had picked out for me. It fit perfectly, the fabric soft and expensive against my skin. He'd also sent a tie, silk, deep burgundy, with a note attached, to match my pocket square. So everyone knows we belong together. My hands trembled slightly as I knotted it. Adrian arrived at 7 p.m. sharp, looking devastating in a black suit with that burgundy pocket square. His gray eyes swept over me, and something hot flickered in his expression. You're staring, I said. I'm admiring. He stepped closer, adjusting my tie even though it was already perfect. There's a difference. And what's the difference? Staring is passive. Admiring is active. His hand settled on my waist. There's intention behind it. I laughed, leaning into him. You're impossible. And yet you're dating me. And yet I'm dating you. He kissed me then, soft and warm and full of promise. When we pulled apart, his forehead rested against mine. Ready? He asked. Ready. The gala was held at the grand ballroom of the city's finest hotel. Crystal chandeliers, champagne towers, the soft murmur of hundreds of conversations. We walked in together, my hand in his, and the room seemed to pause. Heads turned. Whispers started. But Adrian didn't flinch. He held my hand tighter and led me through the crowd like I was the only person who mattered. Adrian, a man in an expensive suit, approached, his smile wide but his eyes sharp. I didn't know you were bringing a guest. This is Liam, Adrian said, his voice steady. My boyfriend. The man's eyebrows rose slightly, but he recovered quickly. Liam, lovely to meet you. Adrian never brings anyone to these things. You must be special. I like to think so, I said, surprising myself with how calm I sounded. Adrian's hand squeezed mine. We spent the evening navigating a sea of introductions, small talk, and barely concealed curiosity. Some people were warm, others were cool. A few were outright rude, their eyes lingering on me with obvious judgment. But Adrian stayed by my side, his presence a constant reassurance. At one point, a woman in a gold dress approached us, her smile too bright. Adrian, darling, I heard you were seeing someone. I didn't believe it. She looked me up and down. He's younger than I expected. He's exactly the age I expected, Adrian replied, his tone ice cold. Because I've been paying attention for quite some time. The woman's smile faltered. She excused herself quickly. You didn't have to do that, I murmured. Yes, I did. He turned to face me, his expression softening. No one gets to make you feel like you don't belong here. You belong wherever I am. Later, we escaped to a quiet balcony overlooking the city. The noise of the gala faded behind the glass doors, replaced by the distant hum of traffic and the cool night air. You're handling this well, Adrian said, leaning against the railing. I'm terrified, I admitted. But I'm also happy. Is that weird? No, he reached for my hand. That's love. The word hung between us, still new but already familiar. I love you, I said, because it was true, and because I wanted him to hear it again. Even when people stare, even when they whisper, even when your ex-business associates look at me like I'm a gold digger. Adrian laughed, a real laugh, warm and unguarded. They're just jealous. They've been trying to set me up with their children for years. And then you showed up, made me coffee, and stole my heart without even trying. I didn't steal anything. You gave it to me. Semantics. He kissed me under the stars, and I forgot about the whispers, the stares, the judgment. All that existed was him. We had our first real fight 3 months into the relationship. It was stupid, in retrospect, a miscommunication about plans, a canceled dinner, the accumulated stress of balancing our demanding jobs with our new relationship. I'd been looking forward to seeing him all week, and when he texted to say he'd be late, something in me snapped. "You're always late," I said, my voice sharper than I intended. "I'm the CEO of a major company, Liam. I can't just leave when I want to. I'm not asking you to leave. I'm asking you to communicate, to show up when you say you will." The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. "I'll be there when I can," he said finally, and hung up. I stared at my phone, my chest tight. That was it. That was the conversation. He showed up at my apartment 2 hours later, looking exhausted and rumpled and nothing like the polished Theo the world saw. "I'm sorry," he said before I could speak. "You were right. I've been prioritizing work over us. That's not fair to you." The anger drained out of me, replaced by something softer. "I'm sorry too. I shouldn't have snapped at you. You had every right to." He stepped closer, his hands finding mine. "I'm not good at this. Being in a relationship. Being accountable to someone other than myself. But I'm trying. I know." I squeezed his hands. "And I'm not good at asking for what I need. I'm used to just accepting whatever I'm given. But I don't want to do that anymore. Not with you." His eyes searched mine. "What do you need?" "I need you to show up. Not just physically, but emotionally. I need to know that I matter to you. Not just when it's convenient, but all the time." He pulled me into his arms, holding me tight. "You matter to me. More than anything. More than the company. More than the money. More than any of it. I'm sorry I made you doubt that." We stayed like that for a long time, wrapped around each other in the dim light of my living room. And when we finally pulled apart, something had shifted. We weren't just two people in love anymore. We were partners. Learning, growing, figuring it out together. 6 months into our relationship, Adrian invited me to spend Christmas with his family. His parents lived in a sprawling estate outside the city, the kind of place that had been in the family for generations. I was nervous, terrified actually. Meeting the family of a CEO was intimidating enough. Meeting the family of the alpha I loved was something else entirely. "They're going to love you," Adrian assured me as we drove up the long driveway. "You can't know that." "I know you." He glanced at me, his expression soft. "And I know my parents. They've been asking about you for months. My mother has already picked out china patterns." "She what?" He laughed. "I'm joking. Mostly." Dinner was warm and chaotic and nothing like I'd expected. Adrian's mother was a force of nature, sharp, witty, and fiercely protective of her son. His father was quieter, with the same gray eyes and the same tendency to observe rather than speak. They asked about my work, my family, my plans for the future. They didn't ask about Derek or the rumors or any of the things I'd been worried about. "He talks about you constantly," his mother confided while Adrian was in the kitchen. "I've never seen him like this. You've done something to my son. I hope that's a good thing." She smiled, and it was warm and genuine. "It's the best thing." After dinner, Adrian and I walked through the snow-covered gardens, his hand in mine. The world was quiet and white, the only sound the crunch of our footsteps. "They liked you," he said. "They did. My mother is already planning the wedding." I stopped walking. "She what?" He turned to face me, his expression suddenly serious. "I know it's soon. I know we haven't been together that long. But I also know what I want." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. My heart stopped. "I'm not asking you tonight," he said quickly. "This isn't a proposal. Not yet. But I want you to know that it's coming, that I've been thinking about it for weeks, that I can't imagine my future without you in it." He opened the box. Inside was a simple silver band, elegant, understated, perfect. "This was my grandfather's," he said. "He gave it to my grandmother when he asked her to marry him. They were together for 50 years. And when I look at you, Liam, I understand why. Tears pricked at my eyes. Adrian, I'm not asking yet, he repeated, but I want you to know that I will be. When the time is right, when you're ready, I'll be here, waiting. I kissed him then, standing in the snow, surrounded by the quiet of the estate. And when we broke apart, I was smiling so hard my cheeks hurt. I love you, I said. I love you too. He pressed his forehead to mine, more than I ever thought I could love anyone. A year later, Adrian did ask. It wasn't a grand gesture. No flash mob. No skywriting. No dramatic declaration. Just the two of us, in the same coffee shop where he'd first sat down at my table and told me I wasn't boring. You're doing it again, I said, watching him fidget with something in his pocket. Doing what? Being nervous. You're never nervous. He took a breath, then pulled out the box. Not his grandfather's ring. That was still safely stored at his parents' house. This was something new, a platinum band with a small diamond, elegant and timeless. I love you, he said. I love the way you take your coffee. I love the way you organize the supply closet when you're stressed. I love the way you smile at the janitor every morning and the way you bite your lip when you're concentrating. I love that you're methodical and intelligent and reliable, and so far from boring, it's almost laughable. Tears were streaming down my face. I've been waiting to ask this for a year, he continued. And I'm tired of waiting. Liam Vance, will you marry me? The coffee shop was quiet. The barista was watching. A few other customers had turned to look. I didn't care. Yes, I said. Yes, 1,000 times yes. He slid the ring onto my finger, and it fit perfectly, because of course it did. He noticed what size I wore months ago, probably. He kissed me, and the coffee shop erupted in applause. The wedding was small, just family and close friends. Rachel was my best man, and she cried through the entire ceremony. Adrian's mother cried too. His father pretended he wasn't crying, but I saw him wipe his eyes when we said our vows. I promised to see you, I said, looking at Adrian. Really see you? Not the CEO, not the Ice King, not the man everyone expects you to be. Just you. I promised to show up, Adrian replied, his voice rough. To be present. To put you first. To remind you every single day that you are not boring. You are the most extraordinary person I have ever known. We kissed, and the room cheered. And somewhere in the back, I heard Rachel say, finally. I woke up this morning to the smell of coffee and the sound of Adrian moving around our kitchen. Our kitchen. I still love saying that. You're up early, he said when I appeared in the doorway, wearing one of his old t-shirts. You're making breakfast. I'm making pancakes. He grinned. They might be terrible. They're always terrible. And yet you eat them anyway. I crossed the room and wrapped my arms around his waist, pressing my face against his back. Because you made them. That's the only thing that matters. We ate breakfast together, laughing about nothing, planning our day. Work was still busy. He was still the CEO, and I was still climbing the ladder in my new department. But we made time for this. For the quiet mornings, the stolen moments, the ordinary magic of being together. Happy? He asked, as we cleared the dishes. I looked at him, at the man who had heard me crying in a stairwell and decided I was worth more than the tears. At the alpha who had seen me when I thought I was invisible. At my husband, my partner, my home. Happy, I said. Happier than I ever thought I could be. He kissed me, soft and sure, and I knew, with absolute certainty, that this was exactly where I was supposed to be. I woke to an empty bed. That wasn't unusual. Adrian was an early riser, and he liked to make coffee before I even opened my eyes. But this morning, something felt different. The sheets on his side were cold, and the house was too quiet. I found him in the nursery. He was standing by the crib, his back to me, one hand resting on the railing. Our daughter, Lily, was asleep inside, 6 months old, with his dark hair in my stubborn chin. The morning light filtered through the curtains, painting everything gold. Adrian, I said softly. He turned, and I saw the tears on his face. Hey, what's wrong? I crossed the room quickly, my heart racing. Nothing. He shook his head, pulling me into his arms. Nothing's wrong. He stopped, his voice thick. I was thinking about that day, in the stairwell, when I heard him tell you that you were boring. I tensed. I didn't think about Derek much anymore. He was a ghost from another life. I remember, I said quietly. I was so angry. Adrian's arms tightened around me. Not at you. At him. At myself for not realizing sooner that I was in love with you. And now. He looked down at Lily, and back at me. Now I have this. A family. A life. A reason to come home. I reached up and wiped the tears from his cheeks. You're crying. I'm not crying. I'm experiencing emotions. That's the same thing. He laughed, soft and warm. Fine. I'm crying. Happy now? Yes. I kissed him. Very happy. Lily stirred in her crib, let out a small cry, and then settled back to sleep. Adrian pulled me closer, his forehead resting against mine. I love you, he said. Both of you. More than I ever thought I could love anything. I know, I whispered. I love you too. We stood there in the quiet nursery, holding each other, while the sun rose higher and the city woke up outside our window. The past was behind us. The future was ahead. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of what it would bring, because I had him. I had Lily. I had this. And it was more than enough.